Hi, this is Bhandari for GALvanize. Charean Williams, thank you so much for joining me and for being part of our Who, Not Do series.
Thanks for having me, Liz. I appreciate it.
Now, you've reported on American football for over 25 years and you're a woman of many firsts. First woman to vote for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, first woman to serve as the president of the Pro Football Writers of America, and the first woman to be honoured by the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, if I asked you what's the biggest challenge you've faced, as you've opened up so many doors, do you think you could narrow it down to just one?
Well, I think back when I first started in the 1980s, things were a little bit different and harder. And the story I always tell is I was at a Texas A&M Arkansas football game, and I was assigned to do a feature story on Quinn Grovey after the game. And so I went up to the sports information director for Arkansas, and I said, "Hey, I'm supposed to do a story on Quinn Grovey after the game," and he said, "Well, we only allow men in our locker room. Who do you need?" And I said, "Well, I need Quinn Grovey and I need Coach Hatfield." And he said, "Okay, well, you'll wait outside the locker room. The men will go in, they'll do their interviews, and then we'll bring Quinn Grovey and Coach Hatfield out when they're done with their interviews." And I was a young reporter. I didn't know any better. So I said, "Okay, I'll just wait outside until we're done." And so I did, and a little while later, 30 minutes or so, a reporter for the Austin American Statesman, Kirk Bowles, comes out, and he says, "Charean, what are you doing standing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm waiting for Quinn Grovey, and I'm waiting for Coach Hatfield." And he said, "There's a back exit, they're gone." And I don't know if I wanted to throw up or pass out or what, but I know I started sweating a lot. And how do you go back and tell your boss as a young reporter you didn't get done what you were supposed to get done? But Kirk gave me all his quotes, and which were in a group setting, and I got the story written. But there were things like that just, they weren't used to having female reporters around. They didn't know how to handle it, and it certainly, as you can tell from that story, wasn't equal at the time. But things have changed, and we've done all these hurdles, and I won't say we made it to the finish line, but we rounded some corners along the way, and the path has been smoothed out, certainly, since those early days in the 1980s.
Wow. And I guess, despite being, one of the most trusted and most knowledgeable voices in football, have you ever been made to feel like your voice has been like worth less because of the fact that you're female?
Well, I think sometimes in the emails you get and the social media responses and everything else, there are some men who feel like that feel like women know less about football just because they're female. They say, "Well, you didn't play the game." Well, come on. Most reporters did not play the game of football. We all probably played it growing up, but yeah, did I play in high school? Did I play in college? Did I play in the pros? No, but there were no, when I covered the Cowboys for 17 years, there were no other reporters on the beat who had played football beyond the high school ranks, and most of them hadn't even played in high school. So that is not even a valid argument. You don't have to play football to know the game. There's people who cover the president of the United States who weren't president. I don't think there's anybody who was a president who covers the president of the United States. So there's those types of people that you'll never be able to convince that you know as much or more than football than they do, simply because they're male, and that's just the way it is. I've accepted that over the course of 30 years. But I think when you do it that long and you earn that respect, that you feel like you would have been out of this if you weren't any good at it, before 30 years, I would think. So it's been a good career in that way, and I'm glad to see that for the most part things have changed. I get less of those emails and social media interactions now than I used to. I will say that, which is delightful.
Now, I'm a writer and a podcast host, and I'm one of the very few female voices in the UK even talking about American football. And I always fear that because I'm female, like I don't get the same kind of opportunities as, say, my male counterparts. Is that something that you went into your career even, I guess, thinking?
Well, when I always tell the story when I was young, my mama who lived up toward close to Dallas was a big Cowboys fan, and she got me hooked on the Cowboys. And so when I was in the second grade, my second grade teacher, Cindy Bridges, said, I asked her, I said, how far is it to Dallas? And I lived in the Houston area. And she said, oh, it's about 5 hours. It's 300 miles. Why do you want to know? And I said, I'm going to marry Roger Staubach, who was the quarterback of the Cowboys. And I'm thinking she should know this. How, teachers are smart. How does she not know I want to marry Roger Staubach? So, and I've since told the story to Staubach, who loved it. But anyway, she called the local newspaper, who came out and wrote a story on me being the Cowboys' youngest fan. And within the article, I said I wanted to go cover the Cowboys when I was growing up. And I would practice on we had one of those metal A-frame swing sets, and I would climb up on it and pull the little rubber cap off and practice my play-by-play because it would reverberate through the metal. And that's how I would practice. So I didn't know girls didn't do this. Like, it's not something that really crossed my mind. There was the Jane Kennedys and, people like that you would see on TV on like the pregame shows and stuff like that, Phyllis George. But I just didn't know that this is something that women didn't do. It's just something that I wanted to do and I aspired to do from the time I was in the second grade. And so that never even crossed my mind. And I don't think I really realized it until that game at Arkansas, the Arkansas A&M game, when I was standing outside the locker room and the men all went in and I was left there standing by myself. I think that was the first time I came to the realization that not many women do this, and then you just grow to accept that you're one of the only females to do it for a long time. There are way more now than there used to be, but there have been many times when I've been the only female in the press box or in the locker room or in the interview, for sure.
Yeah. And when you go through that, especially when you start out, exactly like you said, when you first get there, you've been told you can't be in a locker room and things like that. Like, how do you then overcome like those feelings where you're basically thinking, oh my God, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Like, maybe this isn't cut out for me. Like, how do you overcome those kind of feelings?
Yeah, I never really had that. I'm not cut out for that. I think it's more determination to prove that you can do it, and that you are good at it and that you do know football. And I studied the game and I asked questions, and I still do. I still ask questions all the time of the coaches. What does this mean? Why did you do this? What's the answer to this? Whatever it is, I still ask all those questions. I think you have to be a lifelong learner in whatever you do, whatever field you're in, not necessarily football, but there's an awful lot to learn about football for sure. But I think it just stilled me and just made me wanted to do it more and more determined to be good at it. And so I had more of those feelings than, I'm the only female doing this, maybe it's not going to work out.
Yeah, that's good. And, at the time of the Dick McCann Award announcement, there were some people who questioned, like, does she deserve this? Did you let that into your head at all?
No, not at all. I mean, my peers voted for me, so somebody thought I deserved it, or enough people thought I deserved it. So I was very honored. And no, whatever you do, wherever you are, whoever you are, you're going to have critics. I mean, that's just, especially in our business, I guess it's sort of like being the head of a country. Not everybody's going to agree with you in what you do and what you write and all that, and you're always going to have people disagree with you, and I'm fine with that. That's fine. There are other people who thought they should have gotten it, and other people who voted for somebody else, and that's all good. But I'm grateful to those who did vote for me and think I deserved it, and I hope I have and will prove them right in the long run.
Absolutely. And collecting that award, that must have been quite a moment, especially when like all the Hall of Famers joined you on the stage as well. I mean, I get goosebumps just saying it. How did it feel for you to experience that?
I think if I brought it down to one thing that really stood out, it was the Hall of Famers after I was done, coming and congratulating me like I was in the Hall of Fame and had a bust and Candy, of course, we don't get a bust, we get our name up on a plaque. But I think that was probably the highlight, was just, you respect all those people and saw most of them play. when you were a kid, you know, rooted them on or rooted against them, as the case may be. And so that was really neat. And it was a lot of them I didn't know. Like Franco Harris was the first one to come up to me and congratulate me. And I don't know Franco. I've talked to him on the phone a couple times, but he doesn't know who I am really. And so it was neat to have those guys, even those who you don't know and don't know very well, congratulate you like you're joining them in the Hall of Fame in a special place. So that was the neatest part of the weekend. But yeah, it was just truly a special event, no question.
Absolutely. No, it's incredible. So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now we're speaking about this so much in your country and in mine. What do you feel needs to change in sports media for there to be better equality for female representation around the NFL?
Well, I think it just needs to be more opportunities. There's no question about that. I think that's the key thing, is to get more women in these positions, because they can do it. I mean, we've all proved, many of us, you know, Laura and me, and I mean, you can name, you know, 50 women who were in the NFL who've done a good job over the years, either are still in it or have done it. So it can be done. There's a lot of aspiring females out there who can do these jobs. It's just a matter of getting that opportunity. So I think that's the key thing, really, is getting the opportunity. And after that, I think it's up to the person to take that and run with it. Once you've been handed that job, you know, do good with it and pave the way for others coming behind you to be able to do the same thing. And hopefully that's what I've done, is kind of paved that road and made it easier for some coming up, because things are different now. I mean, the locker rooms are much better, and who knows how COVID is going to affect everything this year. It's going to be way different. But I would just say that, you know, over the last 30 years, things certainly have changed in the NFL, where it is equitable in so many ways to go into the locker room. And I don't think anyone, you know, players, coaches, other media, they expect women to be in the groups of media as beat writers covering the team. So they accept that and they're ready for it. And so I think it is equitable in all of those ways. It's just a matter of getting more women in it, because there are way more capable of doing it than have these jobs.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Charean, it's been an absolute honor to speak to you. I've always been a fan of what you do, but I can't thank you enough for sharing your who. So thank you so much for your time.